Hi everyone, welcome to Potluck Food Talks. I'm here with my friend Phil, and we're going to talk about our new league of underground kitchen battles.
Yeah, who have you recruited yet?
I have a few warriors ready to get into a culinary cage fight.
Wait, are we going to do this like we're two like boxing brokers and we're putting like our guys up against each other, like a sort of tag and tag tournament sort of thing?
Well, I think that could be a way. I think it's important that the competitors have like people at their corners, like holding money in their hands, and screaming.
Maybe we should also have sort of like breaks, sort of like rounds, and then they go into their corner. They have somebody massaging their shoulders and be like, "You're gonna dice that fucking apple finder, man. Like, don't let him intimidate you with his chiffonade."
Do you like kitchen competitions in general?
Dude, do we know each other for like 15 years or like?
I know you love Iron Chef as I do, but there is much more than that. There is also like this kind of Master Chef, Top Chef, Bocuse d'Or, and all of this kind of competition. The Culinary Olympics, there's a lot, like the MOF in France, this kind of things.
Oh my God. Okay, I can already see. You know what? Just as a listener thing, I think we wanted to talk about something else, right? But I think that this is the topic now. Because I'm getting really excited. Honestly, I love I love cooking competitions, and actually, in the last couple of weeks, I've fallen into another black hole of watching cooking competitions.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I had a sort of break from watching anything cooking related. I don't really know why, because why wouldn't I? And like you said, Iron Chef, all that sort of stuff. But like lately, I've been watching this new Netflix show called Culinary Wars. It's set in Korea, and it's a super cool program.
I'll have to watch it. I haven't seen it.
You have to watch it because honestly, like the level is different. It's really, really good. And it's not just sort of like casual competitors. A lot of the competitors that they put up there are like seasoned Michelin star chefs in Korea. And they're putting them up against each other.
This is so cool. It's like the new Korean Iron Chef somehow.
Kind of like that. Yeah, kind of like that. So you have like two teams. You've got like a black spoon team and a white spoon team. The white spoons are like the even more seasoned chefs. But even the like black spoons, which are like the juniors, right? They have their own restaurants and they have recognition. Some of them have like, they've worked in like Michelin star restaurants, etc. And the level is really, really cool. Like it's really, really good. Obviously, it's kind of produced in a sort of Iron Chef-y sort of way. It's very dramatic, but I found myself watching this and being like, that's really interesting. That's really smart. Yeah, cool. And kind of like being like anxious, also kind of looking at what they have to do. It's really cool. I can highly recommend it.
I never saw Final Table on Netflix, but Jess competed there, Jess Lorigo.
Yeah, I know she did. I've also not watched it, actually. I've also not seen it yet. I should really give it a go.
And what about other competitions? I remember when I was a culinary student, I would follow the Bocuse d'Or. But that's like a very specific competition. Do you know like about the format and the rules?
I mean, not in detail, honestly. But like, last episode we were talking about the Olympics a little bit. And Bocuse d'Or is really like the Olympics in cooking.
Yeah, they have this very specific format where you have to prepare things in these special trays and well, I know the preparation is very difficult. That Thomas Keller started being like I don't know exactly what role, but like a very executive role of the preparation for the American team. And I know that, I don't know if they won, but they made it to the top 3. I think this competition is always won by Scandinavians. Be it Danish, Norwegian, Swedish, these are the ones that always win all the prizes. What's the name of the chef from Geranium?
Rasmus Kofoed.
That guy, he won first bronze, then silver, and then gold. Like, I don't know in how many years, but he has all of the 3 Bocuse d'Or statues, all of the 3 colors.
It's really crazy.
And the preparation for that, you have to build like a a special preparation kitchen and train there like the Olympics, like for a whole year or even years to get ready for that competition. It's not something that you just can just show up there and do whatever you want. I remember back then when I was following this competition, and Mario Sandoval, which is a Michelin star chef from Madrid. Back then he was like a newcomer, someone who was emerging, and he went to the Bocuse d'Or. Back then, the big topic was Spanish avant-garde. So he brought this Spanish avant-garde techniques to that context, and it was like a super fail. He was on the bottom 100.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing, no? It's a very specific thing. It's not just like cooking in general. It has to be a very specific style that you have to form in with very, very specific, very French techniques, a lot of classic aspects, finicky little delicate things. It's very intense. It's very, very intense, but it's definitely very French.
Any other competitions?
Yeah. I mean, you mentioned the MOFs earlier,
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. What's it stand for?
Meilleur ouvrier de France. Best craftsman in France.
Yeah. And for anybody who doesn't know what that is, it's a prize in France that can be awarded to many different craftsmen.
Yeah, like a hair cutter or gardener or whatever.
Carpenter, etc.
Any craftsman.
Mm-hmm. Any craftsman, yeah. Sommelier, I think also. No. But most well known for me anyway is the chef's one. Is when you have these French chefs that have the French flag on the collar of their jacket. That means that they're a MOF, and it's a very rigorous exam. I think you can take part 2 times or 3 times maximum, and then afterwards you're disqualified.
Oh, no. I think that's not like that, because there is a documentary called The Kings of Pastry where they follow the road to one competitor to the pastry MOF. And there was this character, this guy that was there, that he has competed like for 20 years and he loses every year and he goes again every year, which is very memorable.
Really? Because I remember it differently, because I was trying to segue to that documentary. And I remember, I don't know, I'd have to watch it again. Maybe I'm wrong. I thought that there was a part where this guy, he had competed, because you can only compete. I think you have to leave a couple of years in between. And he was there, and it was his last time. And he was sort of like, well, if I can't make it now, then I'm not going to be able to compete again. But maybe it was because he was like too old. I don't know.
Okay, maybe I got it wrong. It's also possible.
I don't know. It could be one or the other. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, yeah, this documentary, Kings of Pastry.
Amazing documentary.
Fucking amazing, huh?
Yeah. Like also for me, my favorite is this guy that breaks his sculpture, but he still presents something, like that was very emotional for me to watch.
Absolutely. That was like one of the coolest parts of the whole thing, because just to elaborate, they have to present all these techniques, right? But they make these like this elaborate chocolate statue. All right, which, as you can imagine, even if you have never worked with chocolate, which is a fucking nightmare, might I ask? I'm sorry, like, do you not think that working with chocolate is just absolutely crazy?
Absolutely. Yeah. I agree, 100%.
And so he made this like big chocolate sculpture, right? And this is a man who's a seasoned veteran of his craft, right? He doesn't really have anything to prove. He's already like a great chocolatier in France. And he makes this chocolate sculpture, and something happens, and the sculpture breaks, and this man just breaks down in tears.
Yeah, was it chocolate or was it sugar? I'm not sure. I don't know why I remember it.
One or the other. I thought it was chocolate.
But still, like also like sculptures with be it sugar or chocolate, both are very, 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 very difficult.
Absolutely, yeah.
And I remember like it was chocolate. Now that I remember. But I remember, like, also it was stunningly beautiful. It was really something. It really looked like modern art. That's like something you could see in a museum, and it was really beautiful. And it just falls down and breaks into a million pieces in the middle of the contest.
Yeah, and the guy starts crying. Like he really breaks down. And it was really emotional seeing like a man like that. Being so emotional with his craft, and yeah, it's. It was really, really beautiful. And like you said, and then he still goes and presents it, in a way.
Yeah, but also like the as you mentioned, the people that have this French flag colors, these are the ones that have won that contest, and it's illegal to wear that without having that. So you can't be a fake. You can get like a big fine if you're walking around with that color and not being a winner of the prize.
Yeah.
So and if you see all of the judges in that contest have the color, and sometimes even like a medal, and they're walking around with this medal, very, very chauvinistic French, and this guy breaks his sculpture, and one of them takes the medal out and he puts it on the table, like, and just watches him like, you want to go for it? And the guy goes like this adrenaline rush, and he starts just like preparing something to present it, just to finish the race. He actually wins it, doesn't he?
He gets it. Yeah, he gets it. I mean, spoilers, but but yeah, like that's really cool because like at that point, that's exactly the thing. Is sort of like, well, he could have given up, but he doesn't. He could just like give into frustration when his like work shatters and be sort of like, well, now everything's ruined, everything's fucked. But no, he kept going. He kept fucking persevering. And he pulled it together, and he won in the end. He got what he wanted to.
I think for our underground kitchen battle league, we should have like a slogan. I was thinking about the important thing is not competing, but humiliating your rival. What do you think about that?
That's the slogan?
No?
What? That's the slogan for the show?
That shouldn't work. Okay. We can think of something else as well.
We need to find something catchier,
So we had this idea while we were walking in Copenhagen. The idea was to find a venue where we can build like very simple, like just minimum viable equipment, table, some induction heat, cutting board, not much more than that. Maybe an oven, maybe not, maybe something else. It depends on what we find for each edition. Getting 2 Shaolin chefs, get some sponsors, buy some ingredients, put them in doing like an Iron Chef thing, but more like on a bootstrap kind of environment.
Yeah, like a rap battle for chefs. Yeah, I like that. I like that idea. I've also like recently fallen down these like really cheesy cooking shows, like these Asian cooking shows. They're like a soap, they're like a telenovela, but like centered around like restaurants and kitchens. And they're so fucking funny sometimes, but like at the same time, there's like these like details in there where I'm kind of like, hey, that's actually kind of good, right? Like cooking wise, I'm watching this thing right now called La Grande Maison Tokyo. It's about this, like the plot is so funny. It's about this chef who had 2 Michelin, like this Japanese chef who had 2 Michelin stars in Paris. And then he supposedly, right, poisoned somebody with peanuts who has a peanut allergy, right? But obviously you're kind of thinking, somebody must have set him up. And he gets disgraced. And now he tries to get back like years later to open a restaurant in Tokyo, but nobody wants to work with him. And it's just fucking hilarious.
Phil, I think we should really go back to the original topic we were going to talk about on this episode, which was breakfast. We went a little bit off topic on this one.
Sorry, I'm just so passionate about cooking shows,
So I think the interesting thing about breakfast is that they have their own category because you could exchange like dinner and lunch, like you could have same thing you had for lunch for dinner and vice versa. But breakfast, it's its own thing. And most restaurants don't offer breakfast. And most chefs are not trained in how to do breakfast at a professional level. And there is a lot to that. I remember when El Bulli closed and there was all of this speculation about what they would do. Now it's a museum or even they even did like an Airbnb experience. I don't know. But at some point they mentioned, maybe we could open just for a season and do only breakfast. And I thought like, wow, that's crazy.
That's crazy.
El Bulli making only breakfast. Have you worked in breakfast?
Well, not really. I mean, as I am the head chef of a hotel, I do manage breakfast and occasionally have worked in the breakfast service there. I mean, it depends. Like I I really, like breakfast is a sort of thing where back in the day, I would have, as a young chef, said, oh, like, why would I do breakfast? Like that seems like, I don't know, this seems kind of shitty, working in an omelette station or whatever. Nowadays, I'm like, I think being a breakfast chef is a really nice job, honestly. Like especially like if I look at the breakfast in where I'm working, we don't feel the need to follow any like rules, what are sort of like, oh, you have to have this, you have to do it like this. Oh, in every other hotel, it's like this, right? So we don't have the little like reshos with the fucking cocktail sausages and stuff. Although, to be fair, if I'm at a hotel, I'm like for visiting, I love those fucking little sausages, but I don't want to cook them. I don't want to take care of them. So there it's kind of like, well, it can be whatever, Hey, what do you do for breakfast? You make a nice buffet. You have nice bread from a nice local bakery, beautiful sourdough, local grain. You have fruits. You have nice pastries, make some nice cinnamon rolls, make some Bircher muesli, make this, make that, make that. It's omelets, an omelet well made, it's great. What do? You make some nice pancakes, like some oat pancakes, some freshly baked waffles. It's all nice stuff. It doesn't have to be shitty, And on top of that, I think the working hours are pretty great. I honestly, if I could make a switch to starting work at 6 o'clock in the morning and finishing at, 2:30, 3 o'clock, I would fucking take it. I would love that.
But is it really 6 o'clock? I remember I worked at the breakfast station in a hotel when I was living in Alicante. And I remember I had to, both things that were really a problem was if you didn't wake up. And I remember this is something very natural to happen if you're like 20 years old, that, the clock doesn't sound, you don't wake up, you're already like an hour late. The dining room or the breakfast room is full of guests and you're like, that's the way your day starts.
That's horrible.
Like an absolute nightmare,
Yeah.
I remember having at least one or two of those.
Yeah.
And then I also worked like in a breakfast. It was like a cafeteria in Berlin, and I would do the prep for the breakfast. They would have like this takeaway couscous salads and this kind of things that I would do all the preps for that. And same thing, I had to wake up at 4 a.m. and yeah, the cool thing is, as you say, like it's 1 or 2 o'clock and you're done and you have the rest of the day for yourself. But yeah, it's a different lifestyle.
Yeah, for sure.
I would rather work in a bakery, I think it's more like a controlled environment.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like that there are not so many variables. And I think it's very rewarding to work with doughs and bread.
No, 100%. I 100% agree with you. Like the thing with what makes restaurants and kitchens so stressful is these little time pressure pockets of tickets coming in and services coming in and you have to constantly chase. Like with a bakery, I mean, I was like running a small bakery for a while.
I remember, yes. Was it in Scotland?
In England, central England.
Okay.
Yeah, in Lincolnshire. And it was a very nice pace because I was working in a way where I was fermenting the bread overnight. So I would always come in the morning, early in the morning, right, to bake the bread. I had the commitment that I wanted all the bread that I sell to be baked freshly before it got delivered, as close to the delivery time as possible. So I wanted ideally when the bread gets delivered to be still warm from the oven, right? That was my goal. So that would mean I would start as early as I had to bake all the bread, which whatever fit in my oven. And then I would start making the dough for the next day, which meant I could take as long as I fucking needed to, right? Like I would give the dough the time it needed, let the processes kind of go, drink coffee, listen to music, shape the dough, put it in the baskets, put them in the fridge, and they were ready to go for the next day. And I knew I had exactly what I needed for that day. And I would only bake what I had sold, right? Because I didn't want any excess bread. And fucking hell, that was a really nice way of working where I'm not sort of like, oh my God, I have a walk-in of 4 and a walk-in of 5 and fuck, do I have enough fish? And
I mean, I'm a trained baker, and I also, since I was responsible for operations while in Bolivia, I remember I don't know. It was the longest days without having a day off that I work, and I did that voluntarily. But I remember I worked like 6 weeks or something like that without having a single day off. And I would work in the bakery every day, and we would do all kinds of things like croissants, this Danish cinnamon rolls, different kinds of breads, and the whole process of preparing everything, smelling the dough, smelling the freshly baked bread. I think that's just pure magic. You know, I love that shit.
Absolutely. It was like, I actually really miss it. I remember there was this one bread that I used to bake, which was a Danish rye bread, right? And I made it in a very specific way where I would like take whole grains, rye kernels and barley and stuff and roast them really, really dark in the oven and then put them in water to soak. And the water would absorb all this grain flavor. So you make like a grain tea, right? It's a really dark caramelized grain infusion. And then I would use that water to mix the dough and put all the grain into it, right? And then ferment it with sourdough, dark rye flour, and all these like toasted grains and seeds, pumpkin seeds, linseeds, etc. And when that bread would like come out of the oven, this like dark, malty, caramelized seed flavor. Oh my God. It was like, honestly, that is like one of the nicest smells in the world. You know, something that I just remembered, you know what I heard about the other day, which I've never heard about before? There are, I don't know if you ever go to like saunas or something.
Sauna. Okay. Yeah.
There are saunas that are filled with the smell of freshly baked bread. They're called bread saunas.
Oh, wow. That's crazy.
How nice is that? And you're in there like an 80-degree sauna feeling like a loaf of bread that's just being baked. And it's just kind of like, how relaxing does that sound?
I don't know why you remind me of one of Anthony Bourdain's episodes where he goes to Russia and they're in this sauna and then they jump into this water inside of ice.
Oh, yeah.
Like in a hole. And then they go out and they're drinking vodka and eating smoked mackerel and sardines.
Yeah. Sounds amazing, honestly.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, I honestly think that like my perception of breakfast has shifted a lot. There's also, really nice, like also brunch. I mean, we hated on brunch the other day. Did I mention this place the last time, Annalise? I think I did, no? Yeah, I did. I already mentioned them.
You did. Yeah, I also mentioned Simona here in San Sebastian. It's a super nice breakfast and brunch place.
Yeah. Well, okay, then let's not include that. But like, for example, like I like places that just do it right. Like there's a place in London. I mean, obviously English breakfast is very, very famous. And often it's really trashy. But there was this one place, what was it called? The Something Cafe that is very famous for its full English breakfast. And like, it's just so nice to go there. Also, like in London, breakfast places were booming when I was there. You had a place called, what was it called? Duck. I think it was just called Duck Egg. And you would get breakfast, but cooked with duck eggs.
Okay.
Right? So duck egg, obviously larger than a regular egg with a much bigger yolk, which is crucial. And for people who are not familiar with it, it might sound a little bit crazy. In the UK, pretty normal, honestly, duck eggs. Really, really tasty. Then you get an Eggs Benedict with a duck egg with like an egg yolk that's as big as a regular egg. It's fucking nice.
I love duck eggs.
Yeah, me too. Really nice.
I remember a place I was in New York, and it was a Japanese breakfast place. And I went there just to have breakfast. So, and you had you had fish. I remember having it was rice with like a liquid egg yolk and uni. And you would mix the whole thing. That was really, really nice.
Jesus.
And then there's, like smoked fish and some pickles and stuff. So like very similar to, there was also like a miso soup somewhere. Super nice. Super, super nice.
I do, I think a miso soup is honestly one of the best breakfasts you can have. I'm a big fan of soups for breakfast, honestly. I think like my ideal breakfast would be like a intensely flavored chicken soup.
Oh, nice.
With vegetables and stuff like that. Maybe even some cabbage, probably, right? But I also have a very sentimental connection to miso soup. Me and my friend Jan, who was a stage, not the Jan that you know, who was a stage in Ryugin, when I was in Tokyo, we went for a trip to Mount Fuji. And we had this idea that we would climb Mount Fuji at night to then see the sunrise in the morning. And as we were walking up this mountain, right, in the evening, the sun was setting, all these people were walking past us with like big parkas on, like big jackets and like fucking hiking sticks. And we were just there like jeans and trainers. And we were sort of like, look at these guys, like, what the fuck, you know, it's like 18 degrees. It's not cold, like whatever. And we're sort of like, man, that just, I don't know, whatever. The further we got, the more we realized that we were being really fucking stupid. Also because it was getting colder and colder. We also hadn't packed any food. We had packed a rucksack. We hadn't packed any water either. We had packed 2 like cartons, you know, like milk cartons, but filled with cheap sake from the supermarket, from 7-Eleven. And I think like maybe 2 onigiri or something like that. Long story short, we got almost to the very top and it started storming like absolute crazy. The temperatures dropped like nuts and we had to hide in like a little cave that was on the side of the mountain together with like other people. And we were super far away from everything. And it was actually a little bit of a precarious situation. Like it wasn't actually funny. We were like caught on the mountain. We were super underdressed. We had really underestimated the dangers of the mountain, which for Germans is really silly to do because mountains can be really, really dangerous. But anyway, we kind of waited the storm out. And it was like 4:00 in the morning. And we started climbing back down and found a little inn that took us in and gave us a miso soup, you know? And that miso soup, honestly, it was one of the most delicious things I had ever eaten in my entire life. It hit me in a way that I still remember to this day. And ever since then, when I eat a miso soup, I just remember this like life-giving, life-saving, warm, sort of nourishing quality of it. And so, yeah, I think a miso soup is a really good start to the day.
Also, Latin American breakfasts, I think they're super amazing. Like having tacos for breakfast, or in Venezuela, arepas, or having this, the national dish of Venezuela is a thing called pabellón, which is the like pulled beef with like a black bean stew, white rice, fried plantains, and I'm missing something, rice, beans, meat, plantains. That's it. Yeah. And there are even empanadas that have this whole thing as a filling. There's this amazing place in Barcelona called La Poderosa, the powerful one. And they do this margarita. Margarita is an island in Venezuela, and they do margarita-style empanadas that are just killers, you know, like the best ones I've had outside of Venezuela.
Fuck, that sounds so good. That sounds so good. I love these like Latin American meals with like rice, beans, plantain, and like protein. I remember when I was in Costa Rica, I was eating casado every single day. And I honestly, I think I never felt healthier. Casado with fish, casado with meat. It was super, super nice. Like I remember when I was like, that was good. But when I was in Mexico, for example, Mexican breakfast was a little bit tricky for me, honestly. Because I remember my friend Annalise came to visit in Mexico City, and she wanted to go to this like famous breakfast place. So we went, and it was pork in salsa verde, which was like really heavy, really fatty, really spicy. And then I ordered these like eggs with beans, and they came as this like quenelle of sort of like bean puree with eggs kind of like mixed into it. It was like really strange. And I remember eating it and being sort of like, it was like 8:00 in the morning. And I was like, man, I'm ready to go back to bed. I cannot do anything after this. Like I'm super done.
What about Chinese breakfast? Dim sum? Oh man, I could have that every day, you know, like having dumplings and tea for breakfast.
Yeah.
It's just like a dream.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, that's the thing also, like dumplings, dim sum I could eat every single day. I don't know how long I would have to eat dim sum for before I say I've had enough, you know, but this is like, it's the perfect meal, you know. I think like a good noodle soup. where you have everything. You have broth, you have noodles, you have a little bit of protein, whatever. You have an egg. I could eat that every day, no problem.
That's it for this week's episode of Potluck Food Talks. If you like what we're doing, make sure to subscribe to the podcast so you never miss an episode. You can also find us on Instagram and TikTok as Potluck Food Talks. The show airs every Monday.